So you're minding your own business, right? You're going to bed in 2025 America. You wake up in the morning, turn on your phone, check out what's happening on Twitter, maybe have some breakfast, get ready for work, but then something strange happens. It feels like the walls are closing in around you. Your phone is gone. There's a wooden ceiling over your head, and when you step outside, everybody's wearing a toga. What just happened? How do you make sense of this? Well, you're in ancient Rome. You're now a Roman citizen. So let's play a little game. What if Americans woke up as Roman citizens? First, you would be shocked by how different your morning would be. No phones, no cars, no drive-thrus. Would you be able to function? Maybe you could get your hands on a scroll, but that's about it. Now, you need to get yourself ready for the day. But wait, where's your bathroom? Oh, you'll have to go to the public baths instead. Once you've cleaned yourself up, maybe you could grab some bread and olives and then head off to your job. Wait, what job? More on that later. For now, let's talk about your new rights. You know, one thing you need to get used to is that being a Roman citizen doesn't mean what it means today. You see, in ancient Rome, you were considered a citizen of your local polis or city, and there were many different types of citizens depending on where you lived. For example, if you were born in Athens, you were a citizen of Athens. If you were born in Corinth, you were a citizen of Corinth. If you were born in Rome, you were a Roman citizen. So first, you need to pick an identity. Are you an Athenian, a Corinthian, or a Roman? And each of these places would have different laws and different sets of rights and restrictions. Now, if you were an American who woke up in ancient Rome, you would definitely notice the difference in legal rights. While you enjoy the freedom of speech, press, and religion in America, ancient Rome did not. Not only were some religions illegal in the Roman Empire, such as Christianity, but people were not allowed to speak out against the government without consequence. In fact, Rome was built on the idea of a republic, which is a type of government in which power is held by the people and their elected representatives. However, as time went on, the republic became less of a democracy and more of an empire ruled by emperors. Next, you need to figure out how you're gonna make money. What kind of work will you do? Well, if you were an American, you might end up working as a farmer, soldier, or merchant. However, there was no capitalism as we know it. Instead, Rome had a coin economy, which means that coins were used as currency. The value of these coins was based on the amount of precious metal they contained. So, if you had a gold coin, it would be worth more than a silver coin because gold is more valuable than silver. Additionally, slavery was legal and widespread in ancient Rome. Slaves were used for labor-intensive tasks such as farming, mining, and domestic work. Finally, patronage was a common way of doing business in ancient Rome. This is essentially a relationship between a wealthy person and a client who provides them with goods or services. In terms of entertainment, if you love Netflix, you'll probably hate Rome. Instead of streaming services, Romans enjoyed watching things like gladiator games, executions, and animal hunts. Now, while Americans might find this barbaric, it's important to remember that this is all they knew. To the Romans, these events were a form of entertainment, and they were also a way to keep the citizens occupied and distracted from political matters. But don't worry, there were festivals and other public spectacles throughout the year. Just don't expect to see any fireworks displays. Instead, chariots pulled by horses or elephants might race around a stadium. Now, what about the government? How would an American fare in Roman politics? Well, the Roman government was made up of three branches: the legislative, executive, and judicial. The Senate was part of the legislative branch and was made up of 300 members who were elected for life. The emperor was the head of the executive branch and was responsible for enforcing the laws. The judicial branch was made up of a number of courts which were responsible for interpreting the laws. While the American system has similarities, it's also quite different. We have a president rather than an emperor, and our senators are elected for 6-year terms. Plus, there are two houses in the U.S. Congress, which made up of representatives and senators. Ultimately, whether an American would find Roman politics familiar or terrifying depends on their perspective. But what about the challenges you would face? As a Roman citizen, you would have to deal with disease, a shorter life expectancy, and no modern medicine. You would also have to deal with harsh punishments, such as exile or even crucifixion. Class divisions were also prevalent in Roman society, and there was a significant gap between the rich and the poor. Finally, war was always a constant backdrop to Roman life. Rome was constantly fighting battles with neighboring civilizations. Ultimately, the question remains, would Americans thrive in Rome, or would they struggle to adapt to this new reality? With their innovative spirit and adaptability, some Americans might just thrive in ancient Rome, or perhaps they would struggle to adapt to the realities of ancient life. How do you think? Would you survive a day as a Roman citizen? Tell us below.